There's a bigger issue here. Just because a group of people belong to the Federation, it does not mean that they are saints. The trouble is Earth. On Earth, there is no poverty, no crime, no war. You look out the window of Starfleet headquarters and you see paradise. Well, it's easy to be a saint in paradise. Out there, all the problems haven't been solved yet. Out there are no saints, just people. Angry, scared, determined people who are going to do whatever it takes to survive.
What I want to know is, out of all the stories you told me, which ones were true and which ones weren't?
My dear doctor, they're all true.
Even the lies?
Especially the lies.
On behalf of the Bajoran government
and the Promenade Merchants Association,
I officially welcome you to Deep Space Nine.
Welcome back to Especially the Lies, normally a Deep Space Nine podcast, but we are back with another installment of our Academy Edition as we are working our way through the latest entry in the Star Trek franchise, Star Trek Starfleet Academy. We are here this week to talk about Episode 4, Vox in Excelso, another Latin-named episode, which translates from Voice on High, coincidentally also named after a 14th century papal bull. So we've got our cast here to talk about whether this episode is bull or not, and we will see what our group thinks of this one. I am Blake, and with me is...
Kevin.
Emily.
And Justin.
Emily, I think you have the synopsis for this one.
When an existential crisis threatens to wipe out a beloved but infamous Star Trek species, a cadet is forced to confront his past and strained relationship with his family. As he pursues an unexpected method of coping, Nala races against time to save his species from extinction by calling upon her previous lover.
Bow chicka bow wow.
You know they got their freak on.
Oh yeah,
easily.
It was not so subtle.
Yeah.
I can't identify with this episode at all. Strained relationship with my family and unexpected method of coping, and I can't identify with this at all.
I was going to say something else, but we're just going to move past that one and let that slide.
Any boozers.
So let's go ahead and grab some first impressions on the episode. And since Kevin can clearly relate to many aspects of this one, let's start with Kevin.
So I definitely liked this one. Probably the best out of the four, although I did like last episode too, but this one I thought was a more complete episode. I continue to be blown away by the acting of Sandra Rasta playing Caleb Muir. I thought that Kareem Diane played Jaden in this very well. I'm a little bit put off by his slow speaking cadence. I'm not sure what that's about. I don't know if that's about him protecting his voice, but I'm open to a different perspective on that. But that's literally my only criticism. I thought this was a great episode all around. I like that it had some conflict, but that it was resolved, but in a very believable way. And that we got some history on what's happened to the Klingon, formerly Empire, since we last saw them in the 24th century. So yeah, I would definitely think that this series seems to be finding a little bit more footing as it's going. And the only other thing that I'm weirded out by is they don't seem to know what to do with Darum. I feel like they should pick a lane with him, but I'm interested to see where they go with that the next few episodes, because if they make that also believable, I'm over that too.
Justin, how about your first impressions?
I mean, I'm alongside Kevin on this. It's probably my favorite episode so far. Me being big into lore and everything like that, it was really great. Or not great, but interesting, because almost mass extinction is never great. But it was interesting at least to get some more backstory on, what happened to the Klingons. And I thought it was fantastic character development for Jaden, because you kind of get a lot of his backstory and kind of why he is the way he is, and a lot of growth from the character throughout the episode. They're really, I was trying to think of something negative to say, but I guess I'm pulling a Nicole on this one. I can't find anything bad to say at all about it. But overall, I give it a solid 8 out of 10. We'll watch again, probably. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Well, we know you're going to watch again because we've got 6 more episodes to do of this show, so we know for a fact you're going to keep watching.
Well, I'm talking the episode. I'm talking about the episode, Dingleberry.
Just checking. Emily, your first impressions.
I loved this episode. I watched it for the second time today, and I do like that the storyline for the Klingons felt like it actually maintained some continuity with what we knew of them before. It didn't seem like a big shift in who they are as a group. And as to Kevin's point about Jaden's cadence, it is very stilted. And I'm wondering if that's more he's still working on being secure about who he is as a person, as a Klingon, as a Starfleet Academy cadet, whatever we want to call him. And if it's a focus on speaking with precision in what he's saying, because he seems to really focus on how he words things. So I'm wondering if that's why he sounds kind of stilted. I mean, overall, it was great. I loved Laura and how she connected with him and helped him, like stepping out of her role as a instructor for the academy and stepping into a role as a Klingon elder. I thought that scene was incredible. And the sexual tension between Nala and was it Warchuk? Wow. Like, wow. I have questions just based on size differential and things we know about Klingons.
You ever remember the toy when we were a kid called a sit and spin?
Oh boy.
That's kind of what I'm picturing in that scenario.
Oh, okay. Thanks for that one.
Yeah.
Yep, moving on.
There we go.
So I also really liked this episode and the fact that, as I've mentioned a couple times, is they seem to be giving our cast of cadets a chance to shine a little bit and give us the backstory on them. And this was kind of Jaden's run at being dived into as a character, giving us more of that backstory and developing not just what has happened to the Klingons since we last saw them, but his development as a character. And seeing how the Empires responded to this devastating event. I mean, we got a little bit of a glimpse of that in Star Trek VI when Praxis exploded, and they were talking about the dire impacts of what would happen to the Klingon Empire as a result of the loss of the Klingon moon. And then we see here that after the burn, which again, I am still going to hold that that was probably one of the second or third dumbest pieces of Star Trek Discovery, was the burn. Not that something caused a massive explosion of dilithium, but just the whole reasoning behind it. But knowing what we knew about the Klingons and the way they were an industrial planet, the way they used dilithium, to see that that would devastate that empire to the point of near extinction, and the way they're showing the follow-up to that of the Klingons are sticking to this code of honor and their, what's the word I'm looking for? They're sticking to their traditions to an extreme because they say that's all they have left, even to the point of refusing help that would allow their society and culture to continue. The other part I really liked about this episode is probably one of my favorite speeches from Star Trek The Next Generation was from the Drumhead.
Mm-hmm.
The speech from Aaron Satie about when when one link is broken and with the chains irrevocably forged. I love that speech from TNG. The Doctor did mess it up. He flubbed one of the words out of it. I don't know if anyone else caught that, but it was still great to see that referenced back into the show, especially with everything going on in the world today, which, again, to the folks that listen to us, God knows why, that comment on us relating the shows to current events. I mean, they're made in the time in which they're made, and Star Trek has always been a social commentary. Always has been, since day one.
Do they know what science fiction is supposed to be about?
I question that on some of them.
Yeah, apparently not. Because the entire time I've been alive, which is longer than I would like to admit, science fiction has always been social commentary in a different medium, because you can take yourself out of current events and still talk about certain philosophical things and societal things. And it's just crazy not to understand that.
But that's what some people don't get, that it's social commentary,
Yeah.
that in some ways it's supposed to be satire. I was just reading about a possible Starship Troopers reboot that I guess Neil Blomkamp is supposedly working on. And some of our favorite red-hatted individuals are making comments like, "Oh my God, yes, I love this. This is the society we need. This is the way it's supposed to be," not realizing that the Heinlein was, I don't know if I even pronounced that right, but when he wrote the novel was a complete antithesis of. I'm like, do you know that this is a dystopian novel, not a utopian novel? Come
Yeah.
on.
It's like
Yeah, so some of these people miss the plot.
it's like
Yeah.
Doogie Himmler in that movie was pretty clear.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing that I get too, because there's so obviously with this episode, and we're getting more into Jaden, and Jaden is not your standard Klingon.
No, for sure.
He from
Are
wanting to
you
be
serious? That is brand new information.
from wanting to be a doctor, a healer, to the mannerisms. I will also say that scene with him and Darum, where Darum was going through the breathing exercise. Am I the only one that was sitting there going, "Okay, these two are going to like make out in a second"?
Yeah.
No, I
Oh,
totally
Definitely.
thought
There was
that's
a
where it was
lot of
headed.
there was a lot of tension.
Wow,
there.
that was also charged.
I was watching that scene going, I didn't know I was watching Heated Rivalry, y'all.
I
Yeah,
know.
right.
I kind of had the same thing because I watched that and then I watched this. I'm like, cool, the storyline's going to keep going. Awesome.
Yeah.
But
That's talk about some tension. Woo.
but with the criticism of them talking about Klingons aren't supposed to be this way or that way, I mentioned this on our last recording for especially the lies when we were talking about the House of Quark. And specifically, we were talking about how Rom was not your standard Ferengi.
Right.
Star Trek has always, even when creating these characters and these species, there have always been ones that don't subscribe to the societal norm. We saw it in Star Trek The Next Generation with Kalar. She was not a standard Klingon. Alexander certainly wasn't raised as the standard Klingon, although that's a pretty shitty example because he had one really shitty parent.
Yeah.
But there's always been these outliers. And for the people that want to go off, like we had a person commenting on our Spotify because they got mad that we said people were review bombing the show who had never seen it. And they claimed that that wasn't true and that it was all just garbage and that it was had all these issues with it for virtue signaling is what they called the show. But we can go all the way back to the original series. Representation matters.
Hmm.
And it matters as much today as it did in the 1960s when this franchise broke ground having a black woman on the bridge of the Enterprise with Nichelle Nichols as Uhura. And there's even, she's commented on this and talked about this, that she was going to leave the show.
Mm-hmm.
And Dr. King, in a conversation with her, said, "You can't do that. Your presence there matters. The message that sends matters. People see you on the bridge of that ship, and that matters." And Dr. Mae Jemison, who is a NASA astronaut, has directly cited seeing Uhura on the bridge of that ship inspired her to become an astronaut. Representation matters.
Yeah, and she worked with NASA to help promote, if I remember correctly, getting young girls into
Mhm.
science and into
Yeah.
space and like
She was an ambassador for them, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and
That's right. It was.
George Takei being there, and
Mm-hmm.
there was so much representation on the original show, and they continued that through in every series in different ways. So it's just mind-boggling to me that people don't understand that, and especially the idea of there being a Klingon that's not a warrior. This isn't the first time we've seen that before. They went over that when J.G. Hertzler played the Klingon lawyer in Enterprise.
Mm-hmm.
And they talked about how he was not exactly seen as respected, but he felt it was an honorable calling nonetheless, even though he was in the minority on that view. So to see a Klingon who is not interested very much in being a warrior is not new, but this is the most overt and the deepest they've gone on the subject. But I think they did it extremely well.
Well, and it's not out of the realm of possible. I mean, look at humanity. How many differences do we have amongst humans in what we want to do as a society, how we act, who we are in relationships with? The concept that these species created within the construct of Star Trek wouldn't also have that same infinite diversity.
Well, yeah, there's 7 billion people on this planet, so you have 7 billion different points of view and worldviews. So to me, it's a non-brainer that some of them don't want to pursue the path of the warrior and may choose pacifism over the status quo.
Well, and while we don't know his backstory, on Deep Space Nine, there's a Klingon restaurant owner.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Like, I mean, as far as we know, he's now a warrior, and we don't have his backstory, and he's not really highlighted, but he's there in a
Yeah.
non-warrior type role. He's not fighting, so
Well,
even
and
without telling us, they're showing us that there is diversity within all these
Mhm.
groups.
Well, and they kind of got into that with Alexander late in the DS9 series, which I'm glad that there isn't any newbie on here now that I'm talking about that. But
We
That's
wouldn't
why
have
they're not
invited you
here.
otherwise.
yes, I know. But he struggled with that because he wasn't sure he wanted to be a warrior, but of course he had a terrible parent who survived, so he wanted nothing but to please his father, which is puzzling to me. But anyway, yeah, it's definitely the deepest they've gone on the subject, but I think everyone can relate to it only because a lot of people either go a different direction than their parents would have wanted them to, or they had parents who were supportive and it didn't have a particular view for them. But all of us kind of struggle with the direction we're going to take in life, and why should he be any different?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for God's sake, I married a Sox fan. I mean, geez. Love you, hon.
Yeah, Blake's gonna cut that part out. You know that,
I
right?
know, that's okay.
Oh no, I'm gonna send his wife the sound clip of that. Is what I'm
No,
gonna
I meant
do.
you're gonna cut out the "I love you" part, so it just sounds like, well, I married a Sox fan.
Yes,
And he'll
and
do
I'm gonna
that
send it to his wife.
wah wah.
I'm famous for saying, yeah, she's a Sox fan. It's the only thing wrong with her. All
Sox
right.
people.
Moving on.
Weirdos.
Moving on. So another thing that I thought was interesting with this episode, and I thought some of the pronunciations were a little off. Like if you
Yes.
listen to Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, and things like Kahless and Kronos, the because they added it more of a Kahless, almost like there was an H on the end with some of the pronunciation. So I went back reading, and one of the things they commented on is they went back to the pronunciation guidelines that Mark Okran designed when they did the motion picture.
Oh,
And
interesting.
relied more on the motion picture pronunciation
Oh.
guidelines for the Klingon language than what became more standard throughout the previous series. So, for anyone who wants to comment on that, there was a basis. They did actually go back to more TNG, or not TNG, motion picture background source information than relying on some of what had been established in series.
So the original pronunciations instead of the Anglicanized version, I guess. But I don't know. I guess I didn't really think much of it because I just chalked it up as to look at how much our languages have changed over the last 800 years. I just expected kind of Klingon language to evolve and change over that amount of time too.
That was the same thought I had, but it is interesting that they do have an in well, it's not really in universe, but in
Canon.
In writing, in canon, yes, in canon reason for it. But yeah, that's the way I took it too, Justin. It was that it's been 700 or 800 years.
And that's kind of where I was with it at first. It was like, it's been 800 years, but then just seeing that, oh, no, they actually did go back and base this on something. So I did enjoy that.
That is kind of cool. I didn't know that.
Because it does seem like there's a bit of care going into this series, more so than what was with the launch of Discovery, to try to align with what has been there. When Jaden's brother died, they did the Klingon death ritual that we have seen in several episodes. So it does seem like there's more of an attempt in this to look at what's come before it.
Yeah.
And to honor it. Now, granted, there's some tweaks, there's some changes. I know some of the prosthetics and makeups have changes. I chalk that a lot up to things look a lot different on screens now than what they did 30 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And
very much so.
And that's a big part of it. You just have to roll with some of that.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel completely out of line. Like it doesn't feel so different. You're like, the fuck did they just do? Like Discovery Klingons.
Yeah.
Well, even like the Abrams ones were off too, to me.
There was a lot of off in the Abrams.
I will say,
I still,
that's a discussion for another day.
Star Trek Beyond is still probably one of my favorite movies.
Yes.
Yeah. Very
loved Beyond.
Yes. Well, he didn't direct that though.
Exactly.
Sorry.
We have now got to how they fixed the problem.
Love you, JJ.
It was called Justin Lin.
So I do have one gripe, which I cannot let go. So they get to the battle scene at the end of the episode, and I felt like maybe it was slightly forced, but it didn't have a ton of drama to it because you kind of knew what was happening and who was going to lose.
Mm-hmm.
And they were just going to kind of throw the battle, make it look good. And, obviously I don't have a problem with that, but the music they used during that scene was all wrong. It was all wrong.
Oh, I didn't even pay attention to that. I'll have to go back and rewatch
It
it.
just did not go with what was going on. It was a little too epic for this, like, little,
For this.
You know what the music was, though, right?
No, I don't.
It was Jerry Goldsmith's original Klingon theme from the motion picture.
But they had tweaked it though quite substantially,
Not
correct?
that much. It was Jerry Goldsmith's.
All right. And believe me, I'm all about Jerry Goldsmith, but it did not feel right in the moment. And I said something to my wife about it at the same time he was watching it with me. And she's like, yes, you're right. It's not the right time for that kind of that sound to it. Go back and watch it. If you disagree with me, but go back and listen because it just did not fit with what was going on to me.
I was just enjoying the stormtrooper style shooting that they were doing because obviously it wasn't real battle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it got what they wanted to accomplish because it was the Klingon solution. They honored the Klingon way.
Oh, 100%. I get that. I just felt
both
like
sides
there was
knew
less
exactly
drama.
what was happening.
Right. I just feel like there was less drama than they tried to make it out for.
Okay. So do we think that was also kind of like foreplay for Nala and her?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because, god damn, who needs smut when you can watch the two of them?
Well, depending on which version of canon they go with, they did establish that Klingons have two, so she might have had a very interesting evening after all this was over.
Which...
Well, that's why she was, when she got back to the debate area or whatever. Wait, no, that was earlier in the episode. When she first... Never mind. Scratch that. Moving on.
I did not remember that particular detail, Blake, but let's not talk about it.
It would be from Discovery, that's why.
Oh, okay. Well, let's forget about all of that then.
Yes.
I would like to have a discussion about the finer points of the burn at some point, but I'm going to have to brush up on the details first because I don't have an opinion as much as you do at this point.
Well, and I'm in the same boat, Kevin. Like, I'm fascinated to learn more about the burn. That's why I think I kind of enjoyed this episode a little more because I like the fact that, yes, even though I didn't really watch Discovery beyond kind of the last kind of angel-y part of it, there was what I like so far with Academy is they are acknowledging it. Of course, it's the major catastrophic tenet kind of behind the whole series, but they're treating it just as a major catastrophic event, and they really haven't gone through and dumbed it down to what the actual causes were, which to me, I actually...
pretty dumb.
Well, that way, then I can kind of suspend my disbelief in kind of just imagining it as just this galactic-wide catastrophe instead of some teenager throwing a tantrum.
Which is exactly what it was.
Yeah, and I couldn't understand what Caleb's problem was. It just seemed so off, and then it got to the end, and the reveal comes, and I'm like, oh, that makes total sense. He abandoned his family, and Caleb would never think to do something like that because his mom is everything to him. It made so much sense. It was very well written. I like that.
Yeah.
The other small detail that I saw that I like seeing was that Sam actually came off in the very brief screen time that she had as being very intelligent and being able to have a cogent thought. And it was better than how they've represented her thus far in the series, because up until now, it's like, she's a cadet? Come on. But that was better, and I hope they continue on that track. I don't mind her being quirky. Hell, I'm quirky, but let's make it a little bit more believable.
That's what we're calling
I do think
Kevin.
the explanation to that is coming.
One of you had commented about Darum and trying to figure out where what they're trying to do with his character. And I get that. I'm thinking they're trying to give him a character arc. And like in the previous episode, he learned that he may not always be number one, right? And like stepping back and getting used to trying to work as a team instead of always just being by himself, being number one. And I feel like this is part of that trajectory and trying to be less of a douchebag and working on him and Caleb, I feel, have similar trajectories. Like they're both so used to focusing on themselves, and now they have to figure out how to do the teamwork and trust other people and rely on other people and help other people. And so, yeah, it feels like he's kind of in an awkward position right now, but I'm hoping that's what they're doing, and that's why we're in this kind of weirdness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it seems like his main conflict seems to be with Caleb, so it's not out of character for him to
Right.
show a little compassion for, Jaden, who is an outsider as far as his racial group like Durham is. If he was nice to Caleb like that, I would have been like, okay, come on, guys, pick a lane. And I know I said that even though it wasn't that, but it was more believable than if it had been Caleb that he was showing that kind of compassion to. But I still am interested to see what they do with the character, and I hope that it continues to be either consistent or make sense.
Well, and I think you're just seeing a little bit more evolution of Karam anyway, because one thing that I kind of appreciated with him in this episode is you have the scene with him and Jaden. You have two characters who are from vastly different backgrounds who are kind of facing very similar situations where they're both ostracized from their families. And Jaden obviously is having a harder time masking all of that than Karam is, but Karam kind of teaches them the fact that, you know what, your weapons may not be physical weapons, but your weapons are words and you're still a warrior, and kind of taught him some calming techniques that he's probably had to utilize
Hmm.
himself over the years. And I think that he's always going to be a dick, but I think a lot of Karam's dickishness is just a veneer. That's the veneer he has to wear because he's expected to be number one. He's expected to be the best. And I think deep down, the little guy's just got a heart of gold. And I think you're going to start seeing a lot more of that come out.
And before our fans yell at you, it's Darum with a D.
Oh, shit. You all know, okay, you know what? All y'all listening over the past few years, I'm terrible with names. We're not going to go into Ivanova right now. But cut me some damn slack. 6 concussions. I'm doing the best I can.
You know they're not going to do that because there are people on the internet with a keyboard.
You know what
Exactly.
then? That's what I got to say.
My name is Kevin. I'm just kidding.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Devin. I appreciate it.
So I do want to go back because commenting on that thing about a warrior with words and that bit where you had Laura Thok talking to Jaden and really seeing
What
her
a
in that
great scene.
moment have that conversation of, I have failed you as a mentor type
Yeah.
thing. And I need to be this, talk to you about our people. But she gives that line about, or this comment about, there are many things I know to be true, and one of them is that Klingon does not miss out of anger,
Hmm.
and gets into saying that she believes that your father honored the hunt the only way he knew how, by recognizing your victory and setting you free so that you could fly.
It was
Your
all
father missed
intentional.
the
Yeah.
shot to let you go. He saw you for what you are.
Look, I'm not saying that made me a little
And
teary.
then had that bit of a warrior not with weapons, but words.
A little teary on that one because
Yeah.
holy shit. Like, wow, right in the feels. Thanks. Needed
Hmm.
that today.
Yeah, that one did kind of hit right there in the feels with it as it went through. And I really like that they put that moment in.
Mm.
And I like that they had Laura Thok be the one to use it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
That was absolutely the right choice,
it
Yeah.
wouldn't have made sense coming from anyone else.
Yeah.
which has never stopped Star Trek writers in the past from doing
This
No.
stupid shit.
this is true.
Well, and I said in a previous episode, and I stand by it, that I feel like they were trying to make her do too many things. And I think they found a good role for her in this episode where they didn't try to do too much, and it made so much sense, and it was very heartfelt and
Mhm.
well written, very good scene, well acted. I was very happy with the whole deal.
So they read Kevin's emails.
Yes, they did.
I don't write emails to this.
Mhm.
And if he does, he is not affiliated with this podcast or this show because we really do want the preview screeners.
We'll disown him.
Unless it's to give us previews episodes. But no, that's why I'm really thinking that Laura Thok is probably one of my favorite characters on the show so far. I
Mhm.
just like her backstory. I like the fact that you have a Klingon and Jem'Hadar character who, yeah, everybody's supposed to hate the XO, but she's also, you can tell she deeply cares about these students, even though she has to be kind of an ass to them all the time. And Not only is that, but she's also kind of the right arm of the Chancellor and her best confidant to boot. So she's proven to be a very complex character, and I know while some people have said that that's having trouble kind of picking a lane with her, I think she's just showing her complexity.
Okay. I'll be interested to see what they continue to develop with her, and perhaps I'll shift my opinion. But I think it was just that one particular episode. They just seemed to be bouncing her all.
Yeah, I will say I do think it's ironic. Fortunately, Prentice was not able to join us for the recording of this one. Prentice has a very busy schedule, but I did have to laugh. We were talking in our last recording when we were talking about episode 3, and I can't remember who it was, but one of you was talking about how we wanted to get more into the Klingons and more into finding out about Kronos and Jada. And there just goes Prentice giving his summary of his initial thoughts on episode 3, which was completely not about episode 3. It's just going on about 4. And I'm just sitting here going, well, that kind of buries the lead, doesn't it?
Well, you can cut that part out and pull it over into here.
I might just, actually. Might just lift his first impressions and drop right into here.
And you find out what happened to the Klingon Empire in the last 1,000 years. So I thought that was interesting. And learning the backstory about our new Klingon on this show. So that's been good.
Done.
So, did anyone have strong thoughts about Jaden's brother, Thar?
I actually really liked the way they did that because it showed Klingons have always had that really strong family dynamic.
Yes.
And I liked that they had that with Thar, and it kind of reminded me a little bit of Worf and Kern in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Because, except the roles were reversed. In that one, it was Worf that encouraged, even to the point of having Kern's memory wiped and having it set up to assume a new identity so he could continue on as the Klingon he wanted to be without the shame of being one of the sons of Moog. But in this one, you've got Jaden's brother who sees him for who he is, who tells him you're different, and that's okay. It encourages that in him. Even to the point of finding him the Federation technology that is looked down upon or frowned upon so that he can continue that curiosity that his brother sees in him when he tells him, you're different, you're meant for something more. And I really, really liked the dynamic between the two.
Yeah, this is where you need to be type thing, yeah.
Did he specifically get killed because of the Starfleet technology, or was it just okay? That's
he got
because he was trying to get a
traitor.
dermal regenerator for that was at the black market, basically.
Yeah, he got stabbed trying to buy Starfleet.
Because I got that it was at the black market. I just wondered if it was specifically because of the Starfleet technology. It kind of came out that way.
Yeah,
that's a shame because you would think that's going to cause guilt.
Oh, I'm sure it does.
As even Jaden said, is it still there? It will save his life, and one of his dads blew up at him that we don't. Their technology is not for us.
I did find that interesting, and it was sad and heartbreaking, but it was really well written. His brother risked his life to provide something for him as a recognition of I see exactly who you are and I support you.
Well, and I can even see some guilt in Jaden thinking that probably he caused his brother's death, because if it wasn't for him being the way he is, his brother wouldn't have been killed.
Yeah.
So it's kind of why he was always kind of very timid and had trouble finding his voice. But the one thing that I loved, and one thing that I think that we're going to see a different Jaden, I think, going forward, is because now he's found his voice. And that was even made quite evident throughout kind of the last act of that episode, is now he's found his voice, he's found his courage to speak up, and he's found a way to kind of honor his people by doing what he's doing. So I really think we're going to see kind of a lot more personality out of him going forward.
Have they ever established whether doctors do both Starfleet Academy and med school?
Yeah, because McCoy went through the academy. There's been pieces of that. Crusher's reference being at the academy, so I'm assuming they do both.
I was just wondering if they have
an attached medical school.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to guess. I because they've established that Starfleet Academy is 4 years. previously. At least it was in the 24th century. So I guess my wonder is, do they do medical school during that 4 years, or whether it's additional? Because it'd be interesting to see if Jaden is looking to become a full doctor, or whether he's just looking to be a med tech or nurse or something else.
Different science officer. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
But I always thought, I mean, I guess I could be wrong, internet gremlins attack. I was always under the impression that it was all kind of all inclusive.
Yeah, I was
So,
too.
so like within Starfleet Academy, you might have like your different colleges. If you're going in the command track, you have this course line. If you're medical, if you're engineering, so like you'd have your own little segments where everybody would still take some kind of core classes together, but you also had your different divisions within. So depending on what track you were pursuing, would kind of chart your course throughout the academy. Now, again, I could be wrong, but that's the way I've always understood it.
And that's kind of how I envisioned it too, because I mean, even if you look at like the Naval Academy, there's different tracks that you can go in through that once you do your basics, there's like the submarine school, there's the nuclear engineering schools. So I kind of looked at it the same way you do, Justin. One thing I did want to get into a little bit too, speaking of like family and brothers, is that scene at the end when Jaden comments to Caleb about, I didn't think I had room in my heart for another brother. And there was that scene earlier where Caleb had reprogrammed the dots to be basically Uber Eats on campus.
Yeah.
And deliver food to them. And which one, the comedy piece of Jaden in that, he has shown the range he can do from the serious side, like with the debates, to the comedy of flicking the pepperonis off the pizza because he wouldn't eat anything that didn't die an honorable death. I loved that part. But he asked Caleb, "Are you hiding food under your bed again?" And Caleb just, "We're not talking about that. Not taking questions." But we get to that end scene and they're having that conversation because even in these episodes that are centric on our other characters, they're still developing Caleb or even other characters in the background as they go. And you get that little bit more of insight from Caleb about he's hiding Earth foods because him and his mom were always going to try them together.
Yeah.
And so centering that little piece around family with him as well, and that bond with him and Jaden that they had in kind of that closing scene with them sitting there on the stairs, I thought that was also really exceptionally well done.
Well, and you had what several times throughout the episode where Caden even said, "You're not my brother. You're not my brother. You're not my brother." And then all of a sudden, at the end of the episode, he accepted him as such. So it's kind of it's going to be interesting to see how kind of, not that they're going to get clicky or anything like that, but just how different character relationships start to develop and who's closer to who and who pulls away from who. Because I'm sure as you have positive relationship developments, I'm sure by the end of the season we're going to have some negative relationship developments as well.
Well, and if they do form some cliques, it certainly would be pretty representative of what actually does happen in certain situations.
Well, not even with college. I mean, you see that form in workplaces and adult organizations. That happens everywhere.
Everywhere, yeah. Which is not the most positive, but it happens.
So just some other pieces that were mentioned in the background of this episode is when the Federation News reporter is talking, they mentioned that the Navarre Council is going to be meeting with the Hirogen, who were mentioned out of Voyager from Message in a Bottle, said that they were having a meeting with them ahead of a Delta Quadrant summit. And there was mention, even going back into Picard, that the Hirogen made it near Federation space in the 24th century because they were asked about, that came up in episode of Picard. The planet where Jaden was Taurus 7, which is likely in the same, they talked about that being around the same planet possibly as Taurus 2, which was involved in a shuttlecraft, the Galileo 7 from the original series. So again, there's all of these references. The Doctor talks back about the arbitration over his personal rights from author. There's pieces of, they mentioned some of the treaties that they talk about going back to the Treaty of Organa, which was Errand of Mercy from the original series and being superseded by the Khitomer Accords, which was Star Trek 6. I really do think the writers on this, they're clearly charting a new direction for Star Trek. And what I will say is, for this franchise to survive and continue, frankly, they don't need to write and make shows for us. It's nice when they do. Don't get me wrong. I loved Picard season 3. but they also need to create those shows that are going to be accessible, open, and bring in that next generation of fans to
Agree.
keep the franchise moving forward. And I think the writing on this one and the way they have set this show up and are framing it, there are pieces in here that if you are a longtime fan of the series and of the franchise, there are things in here you are going to hear, you are going to see that are going to make you go, I see the connection, while at the same time still charting that new direction and bringing in that new fan base to hopefully keep the franchise continuing on more and more. And people saying, well, this wasn't my Star Trek. When Next Generation came out, how many people said the same thing, that this was not Star Trek of the 1960s? When DS9 came out, oh, Jesus Christ. I mean, the backlash to DS9 when it came out, because, oh my God, this wasn't Star Trek.
Has it ended?
Yeah.
It's gotten better on DS9. DS9 is actually more popular now amongst the fandom
Oh, I can't imagine why.
than when it aired.
And I remember how much backlash there was against Enterprise when it came out.
People hated Enterprise.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
but to be fair,
Enterprise was a
I
little rough.
like Enterprise.
It found its footing, but Enterprise was a little rough.
Yeah.
The biggest thing, I think, the problem on Enterprise was the studio.
Yes, I would agree.
If the studio would have just stayed the hell out of it.
Well, just ask Straczynski about that, JMS. He knows all about that too. Well, and if you ask me which series of all of them is my least favorite, I would definitely tell you Discovery, but it's not for the same reasons as other people are going to give you. It just, especially the first season, really turned me off of that show. And I watched 4 seasons, I think, of that show, and then I didn't give it up intentionally. I just never got back to it, and I intend on going back to it because after they got through that first series, it got better.
Yeah. And I still think this first season of Discovery suffered the identity crisis because you had Brian Fuller was the original showrunner on that, and the vision he had, I don't think worked.
No.
And you could definitely tell there was conflict in trying to reconcile what his vision was and what they had already spent money on with let's get a show out. And then I would almost say the start of season 2 was a complete retcon.
Yeah.
Of let's just, because that's when they started to change the Klingon appearance to transition to be more what the Klingons traditionally looked like. Even by the time you get Klingons in Strange New Worlds, they look nothing like what the season 1 Discovery Klingons looked like. Like they had completely just hit the reset button on that. So I think the behind the scenes is what really messed with season 1 on Discovery. And what gets me is I liked the storyline with Lorca and the Mirror Universe part. That I liked.
Yeah, me too.
But the whole the resetting of the Klingons, I think they could have solved that. Don't get me wrong, the costuming looked fantastic. The makeup, the effects looked fantastic. They could
if you'd made it a
with
different race.
Exactly. That's the thing. They could have solved it that easily. Those weren't Klingons. It was some other race that we've never seen. Because how many races get introduced in Star Trek that we've never seen in any other series?
Yeah.
They could have fixed it all with just making that one change. That was not Klingons.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, since we derailed to Discovery, can I derail this conversation completely?
Sure.
So we can talk about how does a triad house work in Klingon society? Because the books I read have interesting rules and setup. So I'm trying to figure out if they're like truly like a true throuple, or if it's like she just has 2 husbands, but they don't mingle.
I mean, I was just guessing it was just more of a polygamy situation. I didn't really read anything deeper into it than it's just, it's a polygamy family.
Because we didn't
I'm
really
not even sure
get
it's
much
that.
about them.
Because they established the Klingon Empire is very close to extinction at this point.
Right.
Yeah.
And we even saw this. Let's go back to Next Generation, the episode with the 2 colonies where it had that was from the colony ship. The one ended up becoming a colony of clones, and the other was the Irish stereotype farmers. I'm sorry?
Up the long ladder.
Up the long ladder. And they ended up reuniting the 2 colonies, and it was, what was it? Every husband was going to get 2 wives, and that's how they had to do it.
No, it was the ladies needed multiple.
The ladies needed multiple male partners. I kind of look at it as something like that, where
is it just for like genetic diversification?
Correct.
Yes.
That's exactly what it was.
Okay.
Gotcha.
we didn't really get much of a background. I was like, the books I read have completely warped my brain at this point.
Well, and they even said there was only 8 of the original houses left. So
How many
you
houses
can only
were
inbreed
there?
that so many times.
Do we know how many houses there were originally? Have we ever been given a number?
I don't think they've ever given a number, but I think by saying 8, it
I mean,
definitely.
yeah, there was obviously more
I
than
mean,
eight.
it
I was
had to
just
be
trying to get.
at least hundreds, if not thousands, or many, many thousands. I mean, they had a huge society.
Hmm.
Let's see what Memory Alpha says.
I mean, I guess I could look that up
Yeah,
myself.
that makes sense because you don't want your family tree to be a straight branch, or you don't want to have to rely too much on the hauler, as they say from my neck of the woods.
Listed about 25 great houses.
Oh, great houses.
And that doesn't
Yes.
include minor houses or anything
Yeah,
like
that
that.
doesn't include
Yeah.
the minor houses.
Okay.
And there's only 8 left, yeah.
Because the
Total.
house that
Yeah.
Kern ended up being in after his memory was wiped, they specifically say it was a minor house.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So there has to be probably
At least
at
100.
least a couple, yeah,
Mhm.
100,
Yeah.
couple hundred at least.
So yeah, that's why I'm thinking it's probably a genetic diversification thing, and they just didn't. I'm sorry, Emily, they did not want to take the time to spell out how Klingon threesomes work for you.
That's okay. I'm sure someone will write about it in their
Their
free
pineapples
time.
are not upside down.
Oh, again, I am pretty sure, just given some future episodes of this series, there's gonna be some fan fiction out there.
Oh, I can almost
Mm.
guarantee it's already started.
Oh, if it ain't out there already, it is soon to be.
When does yours come out, Blake?
I don't have that kind of time, Justin.
Also, it feels kind of creepy to write about college kids.
Yeah, it does.
That's never stopped
So-
people before.
Especially when
Okay.
you're 45.
Yeah, it's just ugh.
Yeah.
Things
All
that
right,
make you
anything
go,
else we want to
"Ugh."
dig into on episode 4 of Star Trek Starfleet Academy?
There was not enough Genesis in this episode. End of
Speaking of creepy thoughts on college kids.
Okay, anyone else get a chuckle about the master debater joke?
Oh, yeah.
Jeez. Yeah.
Oh, especially Kevin Blake and I, our MIG days. Boy,
Uh-huh.
that was the early 2000s. That joke was ripe.
Oh my God, I honestly thought that was hilarious. I'm like, because of course they're college students and they're being
Yep.
obnoxious and
Right.
juvenile.
Right.
Yep.
Like,
Yes,
The
we
problem is,
were.
though, does anyone on this show really have a position on obnoxious and juvenile? I mean, some of the comments we have made in our 40s on a podcast.
Oh,
our
I'm pro
position is that
obnoxious
we
and
are
juvenile for sure.
solidly juvenile.
Yes.
Yes. Proves no matter what your age, mentally you're always going to be 12.
Yes.
Yeah, our birthdays may say otherwise, our joints may say otherwise, but our personalities, yeah,
Yeah.
definite juvenile there.
So I think that wraps us up on our discussion of episode 4, Vox and Excelso of Star Trek Starfleet Academy. We are releasing these every 2 weeks, so we obviously will be back again. You can follow along with us with all of our social medias in the show notes down below. You can also join our Discord and join our Patreon and get access to our Discord, where we have all sorts of unhinged content. And make sure to keep following along with us as we go through. We love it when you engage with us on any of our platforms, whether that be Spotify or any other location. You can check in with us and leave your comments and feedback. We would appreciate it if you did leave us some reviews on Apple. We have been getting a few more in, but they've not said anything. They've just been 5-star ratings. So go ahead and write us a review on Apple or your podcast app of choice. And I am going to give a little bit of a warning on this one. As we get ready for the next episode of this that we're going to record of Star Trek Starfleet Academy, the very next episode is Series Acclamation Mill. So the central character in that one is going to be Sam, but I'm going to be honest. This is the episode when I watched it the first time. Nailed the feels for so many reasons.
Mm.
For those of us on this show that were friends of Scott's, that knew how he felt about Star Trek and certain characters, the fact that I watched this shortly after we recorded our season 2 recap, where we had Scott's brother join us and talk with us and share some thoughts and comments with us and our fans. This show hit right in the feels.
Mm.
Oh, it used the feels like a punching bag.
And I'm going to be honest, that is going to be a difficult one for some of us to probably record when we have our discussion of episode 5. But
Oh,
we will
thanks
be
for the
back
heads
with
up.
it. And hopefully you will stick with us for that conversation. Some of you have already made comments on our previous post of videos for Star Trek Starfleet Academy that says we cannot wait to hear what you say on episode 5. And yeah, that one's probably going to be a journey. And I just want to put that out there for those of our listeners who had a connection, whether that be through any of our social media or messages you sent. Those of us who have been friends with Scott, the 5 is going to be a rough one, probably in the fields for us.
Well, and I see one of the chief writers on the episode is Tawny Newsome.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
And there will probably be a few. I suspect when some of you watch it, there's going to be some messages flying in the group chat.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
So I need to be very careful about when I watch it.
Yeah.
Have the tissues ready just in case.
Okay.
And not for that reason.
Not for the happy, fun reason.
Yeah, I got that. Got that. Loud and clear. Thanks.
I'm just saying, last time Justin needed tissues ready, it had something to do with Jackson Pollock.
I still haven't gotten it all cleaned up yet.
Oh God. Okay.
You know what? I think I'm glad I don't know what y'all are talking about because yikes.
I wish I didn't.
No shit. So I have been Blake, and with me has been
Kevin.
Emily.
And Justin.